In the build-up to the new season of Doctor Who, I'm taking a look back at every episode from Season 1 and re-reviewing them all after a year of dwelling. Spoilers ahead for the whole series. Dot and Bubble by Russell T Davies again. Yeah, so at this point we're 5 episodes into the series and 9 episodes into the whole era, and 8 of them have been written by the main showrunner. Now I'm all for a creative having a vision and being able to fully realise that without studio interference or whatever, but I do feel like this episode slot could maybe have been given to a guest writer. I'm actually a bit unusual in that I don't really care if the showrunner writes every episode. Like, for me, it's fine, it makes a more consistent and cohesive character development. I don't need guest writers all the time. But in this one scenario, it's becoming clear that this series is a bit muddled and slightly undercooked, shall I say. A large part of this is because Russell T Davies undertook the task of creating 3 full specials for the 60th anniversary, something which again I'll cover in another video, but I fundamentally disagree with. Not him writing them, just them existing in the first place, at least in the way they did. Anyway, I think this series in particular would have benefited from episodes 4 and 5 being written by guest writers like 3 and 6. I'm not saying the episodes themselves would have been better. Hell, I don't think 73 Yards could have been any better. I just feel like Russell T Davies didn't need these 2 episodes as distractions, and certain later episodes suffered because of it. Anyway, Dot and Bubble is diabolical. I don't strictly mean that in the sense that the episode was bad, it's just diabolical in every sense. It's once again brilliantly shot, and while some of it is an assault on the eyes, it's meant to be, so I'll give it that. The Bubble VFX is really well done. It's very easy for that kind of futuristic interface to be distracting and ugly, but they did it well, and it always delivered the relevant visuals and information pretty efficiently. Very colourful, a bit flashy, but fundamentally efficient and straightforward. The slugs were a bit more hokey. At times they looked great, and that's really when they were just practical. The moments where they ate people were a little bit worse. The CGI enhancement was a good choice for sure, I just think it could have looked a bit better. Small nitpick, but I am a VFX artist, so, I can't help but pick up on these things. Generally though, the VFX in this season has been phenomenal. The rest of the visuals are good too. The colourful world inside the bubble contrasts nicely with the grey outside world. It's surface level cinematography, but effective nonetheless. On top of that, I think... I'm sorry, you're not here for a discussion about VFX and visuals. I'll get to the point. The main character in this episode is a massive racist, and it is fucking insane to see that in Doctor Who. I don't think this was inappropriate either. The series has already proven itself to be a different beast than Doctor Who in a lot of ways. However, I do find that it's failing to fully differentiate itself from the show of the past, but has made it clear that it is trying something new. From the angry, unsubtle monologues of Boom to the actual rapist Prime Minister in 73 Yards to an episode hinging on the reveal that all the characters are racist, Doctor Who is different now. I think there's an argument to be made that while this sort of change is fine, some part of this series didn't get the memo and it does begin to feel a bit jarring. With episodes like Space Babies and Rogue never fully committing to the darkness and feeling much more like episodes straight out of a 2006 series. Admittedly, Doctor Who has always had its dark moments, I'm thinking Turn Left from 2008, but really that's as unsubtle as it gets. However, this series has removed all subtlety and boldly tries to tackle much bigger subjects. I'm all for it, it's just that half of this batch of episodes feel like they shouldn't be a part of this. Rogue especially feels so out of place just before the finale and after these last 2 episodes. However, the finale is a completely different subject and I don't want to start on that just yet. Let's just say any kind of narrative or tonal consistency attempted during this series was thrown out the window by the end. Anyway, I am getting off topic. I'm not on the side that says Dot and Bubble was too far. I think the rest of the series, especially 73 Yards, prepares the audience for a reveal like this. In case you need reminding, the Doctor and Ruby help Lindy Pepper Bean escape the people eating slugs of Fine Time. Yeah, it's one of those episodes. She fairly reluctantly accepts the Doctor's help at first, but eventually thanks him upon escaping. However, when he offers to take them all away in the TARDIS to save the citizens of Fine Time, it is revealed they all hate black people and they don't want to be seen with him. Genuinely, truly the most shocking moment in Doctor Who ever. Not even so much the reveal that they're racist, to be honest. The signs were there. I'd had thoughts that this is what was going on, but I'd assumed they wouldn't actually do it. Upon rewatching though, it is so obvious. It's chilling at times, actually. But the thing that was so shocking to me was the execution. Not so much that it was shocking in a filmmaking sense, but just that it was so well done that even knowing what happens during the rewatch, my jaw still hit the floor as it happened. The way Lindy and the others spoke to the Doctor and Ruby's reaction, the music, I think I'd go as far as to say this is one of the best scenes in the whole series, actually. My heart still pounded even during the rewatch because it's just so uncomfortable and shocking to see unfold. Really though, Ncuti Gatwa steals the scene. It feels wrong saying that because, in theory, that shouldn't be a positive thing. It's really not a light matter, but I don't know how else to describe it, really. The scene works so well because of him. His face when he realises what happened, the reaction of frustration rather than offence or pain. I particularly love that because the Doctor is a unique being. It's not often the Doctor isn't a white man, and the show never really dealt with the sexism you'd expect it to with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. But this time he's a black man, and potentially for the first time in the Doctor's life, he's been on the receiving end of discrimination. His reaction wasn't that of pain, harbouring memories of a lifetime of discrimination. It was frustration that he couldn't save them. Of course he understands what's happening, but this has never really been an issue for him before. It raises a really interesting question for me. How does the Doctor identify? He's a Time Lord, sure, and he knows if he's a man or if she's a woman or what colour skin they have or who they're attracted to. But does this Doctor see himself as a black man? Or does that sort of discrimination bounce off him because in his head he's everyone at once? I hope none of this is coming across as insensitive, by the way. I'm absolutely not meaning it to. I just found the Doctor's reaction to this moment to be so thought-provoking, and it led me down the path of wondering how he truly views himself. And for the record, I'm aware Ncuti Gatwa is not playing the first incarnation of the Doctor to not be white. However, I still don't fully understand the pre-Hartnell Doctors, and as far as I'm aware, the Doctor pre-Hartnell and post-Hartnell are technically different people with different consciousnesses. So in this context, the current Doctor is the first black incarnation of this Doctor entity. Joe Martin was of course the first black actor to play the Doctor, but as far as we know at this point, Dot and Bubble is the first time, and only time, the Doctor has been on the receiving end of discrimination of this kind. Just wanted to clear that one up in case anyone thought I was forgetting her, and I'm really not, and I'm actually very excited to see her again next season. Assuming that, that's why she was at the premiere. Anyway, yeah, his reaction is delivered so well, it's heartbreaking, honestly. Hell, even Ruby behind the Doctor not fully knowing how to process everything was amazing as well. It was such an uncomfortable moment that in a lot of ways feels so out of place in Doctor Who, but at the same time managed to feel like the most Doctor Who thing ever, if that makes sense. Once again, the music is absolutely fantastic in this segment, and it really brings it all together. I love it. However, that is just the final 5 minutes and the big twist reveal. How was the rest of the episode? Unfortunately, not good in the slightest. There's a novelty to the whole thing, sure, the corny acting, the overly colourful visuals, an interesting future concept, but all of that wears thin so quick. This episode once again leaves the subtlety in Kansas and takes a headfirst slide into Cooperstown on a bad bet. And again, that's fine in this series. It's been established that we're getting a very in-your-face set of narratives, and honestly, I really like what this episode is saying. It's a simple alternative reality to the one we're in right now, and with everyone being so consumed by social media and quickly becoming less and less capable. This episode presents the worst, of course. Prejudiced rich kids who work 2 hours a day and don't know how to operate without a phone. I mean, that's actually not unrealistic at all. It's just that in real life we don't have giant slugs and technology quite as advanced as that. But man, I know people even worse than that. Prejudiced, racist, and they don't even work 2 hours a day. This episode isn't subtle, and it doesn't try to pretend it views these characters with anything less than contempt. With the Doctor and Ruby showing visible surprise, frustration and despair at these characters, but even going a step further and having these characters act like the most insufferable morons known to humanity. At the end of the day, if you're given a gun with one bullet and you're in a room with Lindy Pepperbean or Trump, you may as well just shoot yourself, you know what I mean? I do like this whole idea for a story. Again, like Boom, this feels like a relevant topic for now, and that's something that Doctor Who always does well. It's very in your face, and then that's fine. So in terms of themes and what the episode wants to say, I'm very happy with it. My biggest issue is the story itself beyond that. I like what the episode says, but as I said before, it does wear thin after 5 minutes, and once we get to the actual narrative, it is dull as hell. Generally speaking, Dot and Bubble is a tremendously boring episode. Following Lindy as she makes her way out of Fine Time is just a fine time. It's frustrating once again to only see the Doctor for a handful of moments, and this time we don't even get Ruby for the whole episode. I have mentioned this before, but having 2 Doctor Light episodes, one after another, was terrible. God-awful choice. But hey, I mean the production side of this entire series, and the specials, and everything has been god-awful, so what'll you do? Lindy isn't a compelling character, and while I do like the ending and the messages this episode pushes, it's just not interesting enough between all of that. Ricky September wasn't an exciting character at all, and while I like the metaphor of free thinkers being able to see past the reality everyone else is forced to endure, that was more or less just presented in a single line. There are great moments here, but otherwise it's just really drab. The mystery and eventual reveal that the AI becomes sentient and was taking everyone down alphabetically was a bit contrived and really wasn't as good as I think they were hoping it would be. A rewatch is interesting because you go in knowing everything. Every time Lindy talks to the Doctor it hits a little different this time. But really the plot itself is a slog to get through the second time, and the first time. I didn't like it the first time either, really. I know I'm just kind of saying the same thing over and over here, but there's really very little else that can be said about this episode. It's a cool idea for sure, but the idea isn't attached to a good story, and I think that's a massive shame. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. It's a difficult rating because there is so much about Dot and Bubble that I like. It's just held back by having such a boring main plot, and that in turn kind of ruins and mars the good stuff about it. I mean, I like it maybe about the same as Space Babies, but now I've seen it twice, I have no desire to ever watch it again. I probably will skip it during the full series rewatch. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think about this one. I certainly don't like it. Anywho, thanks for watching. This is a fairly new channel, so please do feel free to subscribe for more. I have so much Doctor Who related stuff I want to make, so it's worth joining me now. Be sure to check out my main channel, Cookben, if you want more videos like this about other stuff. I've got a video on Rogue coming soon on this channel, so until then, stay wibbly, stay wobbly, stay timey-wimey, and I will see you in the next one.